Okay, so to simplify, we're going to factor the numerator and denominator. Then we will cancel forms of 1. And that just means when we have the same number or same variable numerator and denominator. And then multiply back. And usually here we're just multiplying back like the number portion, like we did here, like the 2 times 2. If there's variables in there or expressions that are in parentheses, we don't have to multiply those all. And you'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. Okay, so let's step it up a baby step. What if I have negative 20 m to the 4th 25 m squared? Okay. So I'm going to factor the numerator and denominator. So that negative really just means a -1, right? -1 times whatever. Now 20, can you guys just prime factor that in your head?
4 times 5.
4 times 5, but 4 is not prime. So 4 would be 2 times 2 times 5, right? If you can't do that, you would do that factor ladder to figure that out. And m to the 4th is 4 m's. And then 25 is 5 times 5 and 2 m's. So what cancels?
The 5 and the 2 m's.
Okay, so what's left? Multiply it back together. -4 m squared over 5. Okay? Now, I do not expect you guys to be doing this with the m's. I kind of just wanted to show that. What you should be doing is using the rule. So when you're dividing with exponents, what do you do to the exponents? Subtract them. So you should be able to go straight to just subtracting and put m squared here. You could even, in this fraction part, just look at the fraction and say both of those are divisible by 5 and change it to 4/5. Okay? Now let's put some real some expressions in here with some variables that we need to do some higher level factoring. And this should be a 40. I copied the wrong number down there. N squared plus 13n plus 40, n squared plus 14n plus 48. Okay, so our first step here is to factor numerator and denominator. But before we even go to that, I want to just caution you. We cannot cancel like the n squareds here. Because whenever you have anything strung together with addition and subtraction, if we're going to cancel it with the denominator, it's like the whole thing needs to cancel. Okay? So the only way all this stuff needs to go together, if it can go at all. Okay? So we need to factor n squared plus 3n plus 40. So I'm just going to do that off here on the side. So it'd be 40 and 13. What numbers would work for that?
5 and 8.
5 and 8. Okay, so now and do I need to go further, or can I take the shortcut and those are just my numbers? Take the shortcut. And 8 and 5. They're both positive. Now we need to do the same thing for the denominator. So let's see, it'd be 48 and 14.
6 and 8.
6 and 8. Okay, so I have the numerator and the denominator factor. Now I cancel forms of 1. So same thing in the numerator and denominator. Do we have any? The n plus 8s, right? Can I cancel these n's? No, they're attached with their numbers. They have to go together. So we're done. N plus 5 times n plus 6. So honors, besides just simplifying it, we're going to ask you what are the excluded values. And you guys kind of already dealt with this. This was that last section, the last honors thing that I was giving you.
The restrictions?
Hmm?
The restrictions?
There's what?
The restrictions, no negatives in the...
Yeah, so it's this, you know, we couldn't have a negative square root. There's no square roots here. But we couldn't have a 0 in the denominator, right? Because dividing by 0 is undefined. So you want to look after you factor, before you start reducing. You're going to look at your denominator and say, are there any values there that would make that denominator 0? So what about the first parenthesis? Negative 6 would make that a 0, which would make your whole denominator 0, right? So you can't have a negative 6, and we can't have a negative 8. So those are your excluded values or your restricted values. So I didn't say anything up here in number 1. Our first example, but what would be our excluded values there? What would make that denominator 0? Yeah. So, I mean, we can look here, but you don't need to. This is really already factored. Oh. So what would make that denominator a 0?
Yeah, I thought you were looking at negative 4 and 2 over. That's the one that was in the screen.
You're going to look right here.
Yeah.
So what would make that denominator 0?
M equals 5 or negative 5?
M equals what?
5 or negative 5?
No, because it's multiplying. If m equals 0. Because m squared is 0, right? Okay. So let's look at the next one. What if I do something like 25n plus 50 over 5n squared? So I need to factor things out first. Numerator here. Is there anything I can do to factor the numerator? Is there a common factor I can take out? 25, right? So it'd be 25 n plus 2. Everybody see how I got that?
Yeah.
Everybody? Okay. And then there really isn't anything that we can do to the denominator. So it's honors, it's this point that we're going to look at the denominator, but I'm going to hold off on that. So is there anything that we can cancel? Well, there's not another n plus 2, and there's not another n squared. But this portion, which is the fraction 25 over 5, can that simplify? Yeah, we can just divide it, right? And then it would be in the numerator. So that would be your simplified version. So honors, going back to here, what is your excluded values? Again, it would be just 0 there. Do you guys see why? Because it would be making that denominator 0. You good. Are you taking notes with me? Cards put away, please. Okay. Any questions? Okay.